What's up everybody? Mike B with Bombero bus, and I'm going to do a quick video of this Type 4, pulling the head off of it. If you don't know, I got it out of the Rooster there, which is a barn find I came across, and so far all I've done is pulled the front fan assembly off of that, cleaned it up and painted it. So what I'm ultimately going to do when I'm done with that is top end refresh, basically new seals at the push rod tubes, right there where the jugs meet the case, tighten that back up, retorque it, all that good stuff. Gonna check the rings, clean the piston heads and the inside of the jugs out. But this is just a quick video of me pulling one of the Type 4 heads and some things I learned about it. Gone ahead and pulled the tarp off the Rat's Revenge, and gonna get this 1 and 2 side head pulled off today. Start looking at it. So, I got to get this tin off, so I've already started breaking them. Got these screws that hold it on. Got these 13mm nuts holding this intake manifold on. I get the tin off and the intake manifold off, and we'll start working on the heads. There it is, the 1 and 2 side. I'm gonna get this head pulled off, compare it to the other one, and start cleaning and inspecting it. That means the smart thing to do would be to start hitting some of these nuts with some WD, penetrating oil if you've got it. We're also looking at, you can tell this was sitting with some water on top of it for a while. Got a little bit of pitting here. Like I said, I've already ran this engine, so I don't think it's anything structural, but just something to take a look at as we move forward. So I'm going to get this WD sprayed on here, and we'll start taking this head off. And that means I got to get this valve cover off. Since I'm on this cart down here, it's not up on the stand just yet, so I'm just going to take this mallet and pop that down. Valve cover comes off, and these are some of the things I've got. Gonna put some new valve cover gaskets on it. And there's a pretty good sneak peek at what's going on inside of there. Well, I'm gonna take these rocker arm nuts off. Those are 11mm, so already broke them a little bit. Should be able to spin those right off and pull this rocker arm off. So when you see my setup on the table there, you'll see everything laid out pretty organized, and that's because I'm going to try to put everything right back where it came from. Here's that clip, that spring that goes across there and holds that in. So when I pull this rocker arm out, that clip will be a little bit easier to get. So let me do that, and we'll get this side off next. Basically, just take caution when you pull that final maneuver and remove it, that you don't let it spring apart, unless you're a veteran professional who already knows exactly how it goes back together in the first place. Me, I'm still making sure I have pretty good documentation of what something looked like before I take it apart. And certainly if I try this with one hand while I'm filming, it's gonna come apart on me. See there? So look at that tension on the spring. If I wasn't holding it like that, it would have come apart. I'm gonna pull these rods out, and I'm gonna keep them in the exact order and orientation they were, so that I can put them back the same way. So when I lay them out on the table, I have a certain way I'm doing it to remember that. We got the spark plugs out, and the nuts for torquing down the head. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 4 inside there also. They were size 15, and they have some hardware that goes behind them. I left this last one on so you can see. Sometimes there can be a bit ornery, so this magnet helps to grab it, pull it off. That should be everything. Okay, I had to turn it around on the crate here. Next thing I'm going to do is get these push rod tubes out. And like I said, unlike the Type 1, where the head has to come completely off, these can come out this way. So just get a push, pull it out. Like I said, for me, I like to remember exactly which ones they came out of, and I'm gonna put them back. I'm just reaching under here, grabbing the tube, pushing it forward, and taking it out that way. So I'm gonna continue taking those off. And the reason it's good to take those off, those tubes, are because if you can see right there, see where my screwdriver is? There's a screw that needs to come out, and there's one on the other side also. And what those are holding is this bottom cooling tin right there. And as you can see, it's webbed into the fins, and pulling the head off is not really possible until this cooling tin comes off. And the screw to get those off is back there with the tubes in the way. And after those 2 side screws are out of the bottom cooling tin, you'll have this one here, which is a Allen head. I can't think of the size, but this is a very particular bolt that you won't want to lose. We're going to get that one off, and then this whole bottom cooling tin will pop out and make it much easier to remove this head from the jugs. Yeah, this top end refresh / rebuild is gonna have me taking off these jugs. I already took off the number 1 so that I could look down inside there. What I can tell, everything's okay, but if you see that cam lobe there, there's a little bit of a pattern on it right there, but it might just be from sitting for that many years, and then I've, remember bench started it. The rings, they look good. They were clocked pretty good also. I'm gonna pull this jug off, the number 2, and we'll take a look inside there also. All right, get those cleaned up. There we go. Yeah, so yeah, see there how these rings are clocked when I pulled it off. Those 2 are lined up. I don't think that's gonna be good. The other one wasn't as bad. The rings were clocked in a better position, so I'll probably move these around after we clean the top of that piston off. Who knows? But I am going to clean it off. Look, it's not trivial, but I'm also not going to just polish these things and get it. My purpose is to get these surfaces cleaned up well, get it put back together, and then probably just let it sit in back in the Rooster until I figure out what I'm going to do with it. And after a little bit of cleanup, if you remember how gunky that area was, that's looking a lot better. And I'm doing this by hand. Like I said, it's not a complete tear down where we're gonna have the case, you know, chemically cleaned or anything. I'm just doing it by hand with a toothbrush. And then I took this end of the toothbrush and I put it on the grinder to give me a little bit of a plastic edge there, because there was so much gunk on there. It was caked in layers that you can't just brush that down. So, you know, this is softer than the case, so I ground it down to a helpful shape, and you know, that let me just, you know, scoop basically layers of gunk off it. Like I said, this one here looked like it had a little bit of blow by, even though it had good compression. And maybe that's, and look at where it was in this area that looks like you know, combustion was escaping, is right where both of those rings were clocked. I've even moved them, but they were right on top of each other. So, you know, maybe that explains that. But it's just good for me to clean this up by hand and see these things for myself and take my time. I pulled the head off of the 3 and 4 side and started cleaning it up. Just enough to do an inspection. Nothing, no damage report on that so far. The head is looking really nice. The only problem I have so far is here. I've wire wheeled this push rod tube, and the others you can see the bad shape they're in. But what's going on is I pulled these push rod tubes out. You see these worn areas? Clearly worn areas. This one is so bad that a little bit of material has been removed. They're not badly damaged, but areas of these push rod tubes are dented from the outside, causing protrusions on the inside. So as these rods are traveling and spinning, they're hitting those protrusions and causing that wear. So I ran that engine hard and long, be it on the bench, and there were no leaks at the push rod tubes that I could tell. You can also tell the Type 4 by the spring that goes in the valve train and the 2-part rocker arm in itself, whereas the Type 1, that's all one piece. So. And another difference worth mentioning between the Type 1 and Type 4 is when I took these rocker arms off, I was surprised to not see an O-ring or a seal of any sort behind where these rocker arm studs go, except for this one. There's definitely a seal pressed in there, and what appears to be maybe some sealant that was on it at one time. So I looked over here. Same thing on this head. No O-ring, no seal, anomaly. So I thought, man, is that some kind of repair? But what are the odds that that was done on the same spot on both of them? But what it turns out to be is on these heads, you have what's a blind hole versus a through hole. So what that means is if you look at where this rocker stud lines up and goes into the case, you come out on the other side and it's plugged. So that's a blind hole. There's nowhere for oil to leak out of, and that means you don't need an O-ring or a seal of any sort on there. Well, then I wondered, why does that one have it on both of them? If you follow that rocker arm stud, if I can get a light on it, that one does punch through the other side, because the exhaust, where the exhaust mounts, is blocking, doesn't provide enough area for a whole plug like that. So see how there's only sort of a half plug there because the exhaust is in the way. If you can see down in that crack there, the other side of that rocker stud is punching through. So this one does need a seal, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I was just relieved to know that it hasn't been run without those seals and that it doesn't need them when I put it back together. Just something else I learned about the Type 4. And I've heard that other heads could be that way also. But something new I learned, and And that's what this adventure is all about for me. And there you go, first look at it. That's pretty much what the cylinder heads looked like on the first one that I've already cleaned up a pretty good bit, so nothing too alarming there. Don't see any cracks jumping out at me in either the intake or the exhaust. That's a good sign. Like I said, these all had good compression. Just at first glance, looks like we can work with that. You know, I'm gonna call it a day. I'm pretty much gonna do the same thing on the other side. You know, I just do this for fun, and it's my day off, so I'm tired of cleaning engine and engine parts. So I'm gonna go have some other fun now. But if you liked this video or helped you at all, subscribe. If not, leave a comment and tell me what's up. But either way, thanks for checking out Bombero Bus, and we'll see you on the next one.